OK, we should be keeping a very close eye on Labor's spending in this budget because, as I've mentioned, they keep adding more and more billions of taxpayers' money to their bottom line. Now, nowhere is this more evident than in perhaps two new funds, the $15 billion National Reconstruction Fund and the $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund, both of which sound to me like future Labor black holes. Well, here to discuss these measures in her usual Hidden Agenda segment is former MP Nicolle Flint. Nicolle, it's lovely to see you as always. Let's start with this Reconstruction Fund. It's supposed to be $15 billion. Is it big enough to start my alarm bells ringing, or is this just a rounding error now in government?
No, they should, your alarm bell should absolutely be ringing, especially because it's a very broad base fund from what we know about it so far, Cory. It looks like Labor are just trying to find a way to channel money into the industries that they want to pick as winners. What really worries me about it is that the minister will actually have a huge degree of control that doesn't, as to what is funded, that doesn't have to come before the parliament. So $15 billion is a huge amount of money. So we need to watch this one very carefully. I'll be interested to see if there's any more detail that comes out about it. But on top of that, that's just one of the enormous funds Labor have announced. The other one is the $10 billion Housing Future Fund.
Well, before we get to that, and I do want to, but there was a time in my life where I actually thought that government, participating and investing in new industries was actually good for the country. 14 years in Parliament put paid to that. You just realise how it becomes a boondoggle and a thing for pet projects to, work out of the system and look after your mates. That's my experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not about the market sort of identifying, picking winners or even providing, the startup funding for genuinely interesting ideas. Like it usually tends to be businesses that are established and that have, some degree of presence or have done the best lobbying to convince governments of all persuasions that they should have a bit of extra help from the Australian taxpayer. So if it was more about actually supporting innovative businesses to have a go, then sure, maybe it would be justifiable. But the fact that the minister, by, I understand, disallowable instrument, which means, they can just get it through without the proper scrutiny that a bill requires, really worries me.
It takes a politician of enormous integrity to delve right into it to find out and move the disallowance motion. We've done that on a couple of them.
Yes.
All right, this Housing Future Fund, you mentioned that's $10 billion. It's still a significant chunk of change.
It is, but Labor very quietly this week announced an extra $2 billion of funding on top of that. So it hasn't even passed Parliament. It's not even up and running, and they're already pouring more money into it. Now, there is a housing crisis at the moment, as we're all aware. High interest rates, very tight supply in terms of properties for sale, but also the rental market as well. Rents are going up, people can't find properties. There's a skills and also a materials shortage within the building industry. The unions are having a lot of influence, especially in big sort of apartment complexes in Victoria in particular. And so you sort of got this perfect storm where we don't have enough supply, where interest rates are going up, where consumer and also builder confidence is fragile. And so Labor are trying to sort of address this with their $10 billion fund plus the extra two to create 30,000 houses, social and affordable, over 5 years. So it's a drop in the ocean.
We're bringing in 1 million people over the next 3 years.
And that's the really...
30,000 houses, you've got a crisis in the building industry, engineered by government subsidies in the first place, a crisis in supply, we've got builders going broke at a rate of knots, bureaucracy, cumbersome problems with all the red and green tape. This is just going to add to it, surely.
Well, yeah, so first of all, it's now $12 billion for sort of one of the main planks of their platform is the 30,000 houses over 5 years for social and affordable. The coalition said they could build the same number of houses for half the money. So this deserves much greater scrutiny. It's a huge amount of money. But the actual terrifying part of this is, because we've just talked about why the crisis is happening and what the pressures are, net migration. It came out this week that net migration into Australia is something like 400,000 people this year. before COVID, it was only 235,000 people. So that is, or, you know, the million figure you've just
the
brought.
million is over 3 years going forward.
That's right.
They're saying it's not catching up because we had no net migration over the last 2 years. This is a Ponzi scheme. They're just trying to stack the deck to get headline numbers ahead of the election.
Yes.
But our quality of life is going to go backwards.
Well, and also they want the budget bottom line because migrants are worth a huge amount to the federal budget. I think from memory, the Coalition took sort of a $2 billion hit when we cut migration from 195,000 down to 160,000 for skilled migration. But where are these people going to live? Aussies can't find houses at the moment.
It's crazy.